let's break it down for you. Let's talk about how it all started and where it's currently at. We've also put in a map that shows exactly where things panned out. Remember, this is the site of the clash that took place, the patrolling location at Yangtze. Remember, this is where the Indian troops were when the aggression came in from the Chinese side. We've been speaking about how this is a geographically extremely challenging terrain. The plateau is at 14,000 feet altitude, and that's one of the biggest challenges, apart from, of course, the inclement weather in this area. So this area is also completely covered in thick snow at around this time, and this is one of the reasons why the Chinese misadventure took place now, because the Chinese troops perhaps thought that there was a very thin number of people, the Indian troops, that would be on this side. So remember, in 2008 as well, a similar attack had taken place. The PLA had broken a Buddha statue. This is not just strategically important, it's also religiously extremely important for Buddhists. The Indian position is what China opposes. So this has been in contention, but only from 2008. So the Indian position is something that has been challenged by China. In fact, remember, this time around as well, reports coming in that China wanted to dislodge the Indian troops from this site. The troops are stationed here, and this is where they wanted to dislodge them from. Now let's talk about the provocations, because remember, this is not the first provocation. Over the past few weeks as well, there has been provocation on land and via air as well. So China tried to violate the Indian airspace as well. It has now been revealed that 2 to 3 times the IAF jets had to be scrambled. So because there was invasion into the Indian airspace in the last few weeks, if that has happened, now of course the focus, all of it, is on the 9th December clashes. 350 PLA troops pelted stones at the forces. So this is much larger than the usual platoon of the Chinese forces. 350 is quite a big number, which is hinting at this being a pre-planned attack. So there was a physical altercation that took place with the Indian army, and there were no sharp weapons that were used and no shots that were fired as well. There were a lot of speculations on whether shots had been fired. Now confirmation coming in that that did not happen. It was a hand-to-hand combat. But it was not the only altercation that took place. There was another provocation as well. 6 Indians have been injured. There are about 30 to 35 on the Chinese side as well who have been injured. On both sides, it's not said to be life-threatening injuries. In the second provocation, we spoke about how there were injuries. There was another one, 70 PLA soldiers involved in the second clash. So it was not just that one clash that took place, there were 2 clashes. This one was less intense than the first one, and there were fewer number of injuries, fewer number of people involved as well. So this was the provocation that took place. Let's go across to Priyank Tripathi, my colleague, who is joining us. In fact, he is on the way to Tawang, the clash site. Times Now is the only channel which is closest to the spot where all of it transpired. Priyank, first up, take us through what the area is like, the kind of, the troop movement that is there. Because remember, we've been speaking about how this is one of the areas that is geographically, topographically as well, extremely challenging. And apart from that, also the fact that the weather is also said to be very inclement around this time of the year.
Yes, certainly, Pratibha, as we are gradually moving towards Tawang area, the temperature is certainly rising, and what we got to know that the area where this particular skirmish happened, their temperature likes to be into minus degrees. But time and again, the PLA have attempted to enter into the Indian territory, because this area is certainly not fenced. We are talking about the toughest terrain in the world, where all these both the army side have been patrolling time and again. But interestingly and very shockingly also, that the PLA has been attempting to infiltrate in the area. What we also got to know that earlier to that also there were drone movement of the PLA side, which was trying to keep an eye on everything which is happening on the Indian side. Later to that, the Indian armed forces also wanted to show their picture to the PLA army. That's why the Indian Air Force was brought into picture. infrastructure, and Su Sukhoi 30 was also flown in this particular area. But the fact of the matter is that the kind of developmental work which is happening in this area, which can allow the swift movement of the security forces towards the extreme weather condition, certainly the PLA is rattled. That's why they have been attempting to carry out this kind of infiltration time and again, and have then area dominance, to be very precise, in this particular area. While doing that, they are also attempted to build up a temporary structure which was opposed by the Indian Army. The issue once again escalated on 9th of December, when at 10:30 around, the Indian Armed Forces spotted the PLA army personnel trying to build up a temporary structure. When they were stopped, later to that, around 200 more armed personnel from the PLA joined the hand, and they started throwing stones on the Indian Army. They were having barbed wires with stick, just like the way Vikings used to have. So that kind of primitive thought process of interpretation is something which is very important to be seen for the security expert. But the intel note which we have also accessed, Pratibha, it's clearly showing that the PLA has been recruiting those Indians who are on the bordering area to give the message back to the PLA, because the language is certainly a big barrier, because the Chinese Communist Party does not want the PLA to be so much very well versed with other language apart from the Mandarin, and that is the reason because of which the Indian interpreters are also being used by them. So the situation has been brought down after the meeting which happened on 11th, when the flag meeting happened. But certainly it cannot be said that the PLA will once again not attempt to do this kind of dread event where they have sustained a series of injuries to the armed personnel. Although we are waiting an official statement from the PLA, which will not certainly come out, because they prefer to hide information from the rest of the world. But our Home Minister and the Raksha Mantri, both of them were pretty much open to come out before the public and give an official statement inside the parliament as well as outside the parliament, so that things can be cleared to the Indian government. But the politics is certainly escalating on this issue, which has happened in the past as well. So the government is certainly not bothered about what the political parties are saying. But the fact of the matter is to build up and boost up the morale of the security forces is something which the government has been thinking on. And the forces have also, given their stand to the government when they have pushed back the PLA army personnel back to their area.